Here we are we up and running, I think? Testing 1, 2, yes. I think we're okay. Testing 1, 2, yes. Gotta mute the stream, right? Okay. Oh, hi, yo. Picking up from where we left off yesterday. Picking up from yesterday, it'll be a couple of things. This is the green block that is severely worn out. I'm still cleaning up on this one. I'll do a bit of work on this. Then I'll switch back to what we started yesterday. The job of putting those plugs into the purple blue block. And I'll make a transfer today and carve off the areas there. So we'll finish up what we started yesterday on this one. But first, let's get some work done on this green one because it's going to take a while. Do we have focus? It seems we have focus. And today here in the shop, it's going to be crazy. There's over 30 people coming for print parties today. But as soon as we get that all done and get to this evening, I'm going to spend the rest of the time preparing for tomorrow. Tomorrow's stream, I've got to arrange, backup plans for different parts of it. I've got a block ready, but I've got to get an extra piece of wood, an extra hunchta to make sure I can go through it smoothly and cleanly tomorrow with no gaps and no breaks. And something else that's happening, we're testing it today. I'm not on Wi-Fi today. We've made a wired connection directly through to our router. It's a 1 gigabit connection that we have through to NTT. And I'm now wired directly in without being Wi-Fi. Cameron's not coming today to test this. Today's Sunday. He's never here on Sunday, but to see if the Cameron effect has anything to do with Wi-Fi, I don't know. See if that's for today. No, it's from March. Good. Think about this block, these were carved in somewhere in the 1930s, I guess. Somebody on the stream yesterday was researching a little bit and finding out when this image was created. And I can believe it because this wood is crispy and old and dry. It's not actually so easy to carve. It's very brittle. But an interesting point is 1930s. Now, I was born in 1951. This block has been printed and printed again and printed again. And now here I am. I'm coming along with my knife, and I'm going to chop away a little bit of wood here. And the bit of wood I'm chopping away, it's like it's been here, part of this block, since 1930X. 1930 to show. And now all of a sudden here I am. I'm cutting it off and saying, away you go. We'll throw you away. And that little bit of wood's been here waiting since 1930. And now here I am. I'm cutting it off. And I'm going to scrape it off and throw it under my bench. A little piece of whatever. Maybe you think it's crazy to think about such things or talk about such things. But 1930, all my life, every minute that I've been alive, this little bit of wood here has been sitting, waiting, doing its job, occasionally printing, being put back into storage, being brought up for printing again. For every minute that I've been alive, nearly every minute that my mother has been alive. She's born in the late 1920s now. So this block is as old as that. And here I am, cutting away a piece of wood. And that little chip just now, for 90 years, it's been part of this, and now it's being tossed aside. Whatever. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's sort of something about that makes me... I can almost imagine the chip screaming, no, I don't want to go. I want to stay here. If you can see, we tried to get this closer yesterday, but the wood here, some of these parts of this block, where's the camera lens here? Try and get it to focus. I don't know if it'll focus this close. I'm sorry, I don't know. It's so rounded. It's impossible to believe it's a printing block. It's just, the shapes are just soft, round, like sand dunes or something, you know. And it's inconceivable how many copies must have been printed from these blocks, you know. You can see it there, look. It's just rounded, soft bumps. If this were a part of the block where these color zones were bounded by lines, we couldn't do this because the lines of the block would be there and the color spaces have to fit in the lines. But the part that I'm doing here, this green block, now these are clumps of leaves. We talked about this yesterday. They're just green clumps and there's no lines that they have to match. There's a darker tone for the pine needles or whatever, and then a green clump. So it doesn't matter. So we can get away with this kind of thing today, just turning it back into a bit of a sharper shaped clump. I'm not going to do, for the moment, I'm not going to do the outside of these top ones, because that's the part where these green shapes meet the top of the print. And if I cut it in the wrong place here, it'll show a line against this thing. So I'm going to wait till Ayumi-san is doing some test printing on those top lines that match this part of the print. Alright, that's done. That's another area over here. Look at this. You can't even see. We'll finish this little corner bit here, and then I'll switch over to the, like I mentioned, I'll switch over to the other block. We'll finish up the job we did yesterday with the wood plug. So let me just get this corner done first. You can see here where a previous printer has chopped out some of this. It must have just become too frustrating for him. Something on the outside. So some other printer has done this some years ago. We're holding our focus. I have no idea what the original blobs were. It doesn't much matter. It's just going to be generic tree shapes. We were chatting about this yesterday on the stream, and why some of these blocks are so much more worn than others. You know, the one that's right next to me, or the one with the light blue. It's very similar shapes. It's a bunch of small round shapes, and it's worn, but it's not worn anywhere nearly as much. This is quite usable. We're just going to use it as it is. And it was the pigment. You know, they both went through the same number of impressions. They've both been brushed the same way, but the blue pigment must have been something very, very soft that they used, and the green pigment must have had something hard and abrasive inside it, and it wears down. You know, my own experience with this is that we see usually brown blocks are really, really heavily worn, and green not so much. I'm a bit surprised at this. You know, the brown ones, the way we make brown is there's red and blue and yellow and all kinds of black mixed in together. So brown is sort of everything in the kitchen sink, so it's not surprising that there's an abrasive pigment in the mix there somewhere. A light blue, it's just probably a single pigment and very, very heavily thinned. And a green like this would have been made with obviously some kind of blue and some kind of yellow with a bit of black probably thrown in. Somewhere in that mix must have been something very abrasive. Or maybe this is a particularly soft piece of wood, but I don't think so. Should check on this once in a while. Excuse me. Something in the question box there, I hear. Just a minute. Also, something else about the mail. I know long-time viewers of these streams have commented many times. There's different sounds from my email box. We've had a system in place for many years where I've programmed the mailbox to play different sounds depending on what different kinds of emails come in. There's nothing for every single email, but for example, when orders come in for prints, or when a request comes in for the Great Wave or something like this, or a print party reservation, as you heard a few minutes ago, when they come in. And maybe some of you might be starting to think there haven't been so many email sounds recently. Whereas a few weeks back, the email sounds were happening like every 5 minutes. And two things have changed. One thing is that we're out of the December rush now, of course, so orders coming in have very much slowed down. One of our biggest rush periods is now over. The second big difference is we've revamped our systems here now. Everybody knows about Cameron. Cameron's here working on a lot of different projects. And we've changed the email system now. So instead of everything being my personal email, of course, things like orders and new subscriptions and requests and stuff, they don't come to me anymore. They go to Cameron. So they go to a different mail system now. We've set up more of a company-wide mail system instead of every single email for the whole organization coming into my personal mailbox. So even if you ordered a print 10 minutes ago and you're thinking, wow, where's the sound in Dave's email box? It's not going to happen. It goes to the box that Cameron looks at. And that's another change too. And I'm not sure if I should admit this because it sounds like sort of a negative. But before, I was here every day of the week. I get up in the morning, I go to bed at night, and I would answer emails like at 7 o'clock in the morning and at midnight and whatever. But now those mails don't come to me, the orders and stuff. They come to the company-wide box, which Cameron will look at when he gets here on Monday morning. So this is another change. We no longer do things like order processing at 6 o'clock on Sunday morning. Am I going to get criticized for this? I don't know. I think, it's a change to a more normal system. I'm sorry. It's a slightly degraded level of customer service, I guess. When you order from Amazon at 6 o'clock Sunday morning, it gets processed and it's probably already at the shipping center at 7 o'clock. I don't know. We really can't claim anymore to be able to do that. And I think it's okay to talk about this because, honestly speaking, I don't think people demand that Dave gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning and wraps packages. So, But yeah, we're moving bit by bit to a more stable structure. And part of that is going to be, at least in that one sense, a slight degradation in service. You'll no longer get the automatic, or the automatic emails come from the system, but you'll no longer get a human contact at 6 o'clock Sunday morning, Japan time, Whatever, I shouldn't have to mention this, it's just common sense perhaps. Maybe people were surprised before when they did get replies, I don't know. Another downside of this, of course, is that Monday mornings are chaos because stuff is just built up over the weekend. So that's why you're not hearing orders here. There perhaps are orders coming in. I myself, at the moment, don't know about them. It's a Sunday morning here in Japan. We've kept the print party mails coming to me because I'm here in the shop, and it's instant. Those have to be, whoever's in the shop has to be made aware of new party reservations instantly, of course. So we can't delay those. We still like focused and stuff? Seems okay, not quite sure. Too shallow. The question of how deep to carve and how shallow to go, it's dependent on so many things. It depends on the kind of paper you're using, the kind of barren you're using, how many copies you're going to be making. People who are doing this at the amateur level don't have to worry too much about this because you're probably only making a few copies. Pigment doesn't have a chance to build up here. But for us, hundreds and hundreds of copies. If we don't clear this out really well, it starts to blot and blur. And if you're using a good calendared paper, if the paper surface is flat and smooth, then you can get away with a block being much, much less deeply carved in these places. Because the paper really does sit exactly on top and doesn't flop down. But the paper we get these days from Iwana-san, living national treasure he may be, but his paper is very roughly textured on the top surface these days. And to make a good impression, we have to press firmer, and the surrounding areas get pushed down farther. So the junkier the paper gets, the more critical it is to carve lower. There was a question, wasn't there? Look at that, I'm already forgetting. I can see you screaming, Dave, don't forget the question. Okay, let's have a look. Synchronization problems. I don't know, how much of it's me and how much of it's on your end. I don't know. Questions. There's a question in the box. Yeah, it's a good question. I tried to address it a few minutes ago. It's a question about what I'm doing right now, cutting this green block again. By definition, all these new shapes that I'm cutting now are going to be smaller than they were in the original print. Absolutely. Let's look at it on all. whatever. There were these green tree blobs were here. There was, you know, blobs of leaves and whatever in the original print. There was black stuff. There was the green blobs. Now, over the years, they've worn down. And the edges, of course, have been going rounder and rounder and rounder and rounder and rounder. And now I'm cutting again now inside what was the original blob. So my new blobs absolutely are all going to be smaller than these blobs. Now, we can get away with this because it doesn't matter where the edge of these blobs are. But if it was just something like this inside this kimono line, that's been wearing down. If I did the same thing with that orange thing here, the original shape was there. As it wears down, the edges get smaller and smaller. And if I cut it now, the same way I'm doing with the green, it would be smaller. And it wouldn't fit inside that outline. So I can't do that. But I can only get away with it on this green block because it doesn't matter where the edges are. And our new print, let's call this version 2 of this print, whatever, is going to clearly be differentiated from the first ones. Maybe some historians later will see, there's the copy from the original Doi blocks. Here's the copy from the Mokuhankan edition. The trees are smaller. Absolutely, you will be able to do that. So I'm not in any way pretending that we're going to make the print exactly the same here. We're just trying to get these blocks back into a condition where we can make some nice prints out of them. Already, you know, Aimi-san's first test, you know, this is the bold, wild version that they printed after the war. The pre-war version was soft and delicately toned, and she's done part of it here. It's nowhere near ready yet. There needs to be more blue on the water, and there needs to be more green. She didn't even print the green block yet. So we will be able to make a very, very nice, tasteful toned print, I think. We'll see. Okay, let's get away. Let's put the screen away. It's not finished yet, but let's put it away. Because to make this stream a bit more interesting, let's get back to what I was doing yesterday. For those of you who weren't here, was that everybody? Most of you, I don't know, no idea. For those of you who weren't here, the issue with this block was that, can you see this? I think you can see it. This kimono, it's printed over the years. Sometimes they printed it purple, sometimes they're printed blue. The particular sample I have here is blue. The kimono color breaks at the top, and there's a white space. And we at first thought it was just a muffler or a stole or something. But no, she actually has a stole around her neck. So, and we looked at the prints in the old versions online, and yeah, the blue should come up to the top. It's a little bit different. There's a bit of a white space. So these two blue blocks need to be repaired. And when we looked at the block, we found that the printer, in doing this thing about cutting around, going around to try and make it a bit deeper to print, you can see these marks here. This is made by the printer. These are not marks by the carver. This is the printer who's chopped it away desperately to try and get it deeper so that he can print the thing cleanly. Anytime you see that, that's printer's carving. These scoops are carvers. This is from the printer's pen. Anyway, the printer was trying to do it and he mucked it up and cut too close. So what I did yesterday was I chopped a bigger hole, bunged in a piece of wood, and roughly cut it back. It's the right area, but now it's too big. Without having a transfer, I cut this too big. So I've got to do two things now. Step one is I've got to level the top of this so that it's the same height. And we're going to do that with a stone. Chisel first, and then a stone. And I think I did the chisel part yesterday. I tried to chisel away. I don't want to cut too much. Yeah, we're close enough there. Here, if I can feel a bump. No bump. We're okay. Next is stone. And this is tough because it's difficult to balance on top of that. I think we're there, as close as I can tell. Same too here, very, very close. Yeah, I can't tell anything. Okay, now next step is we have to transfer the image. So what I'm going to do, I got the key block. Where's the key block? Here's the key block. This is a cool object. Can you see it here? I don't know if it's going to focus. It's carved twice, of course, as we saw yesterday. They carved the whole image twice with one set of registration marks. So the carving time is absolutely doubled. There's no way around it. It takes twice as long to carve. But of course, once the carving is all finished, the printing time, it's like 1.1 or 1.2 instead of 2 times. It doesn't take anywhere near twice as long to print. It just takes almost exactly the same length of time to print, just a fraction more. Smaller prints, they would do 4 up, sometimes even 8 up for really small prints. But a print of this size, postcard size, it was really common to do it twice. I've never done one of these myself, but it would be fun. You know, how do you carve it? You carve the umbrella, you carve the umbrella, you carve the body, you carve the body, or do you just go around one and all the way over to the other? I don't know. No idea. Now I've got to transfer that kimono area over to our new plugged block. So we don't need to print the whole thing here. We'll need some paper. Oh my God, piece of paper. Here's our 2 zones. We'll do a dry run here. Crap, where's the registration? Look at this. Can you see this? Will it focus? I don't know if it'll focus. It's been cut and chopped and re-chopped and recut and re-chopped. I have no idea what it is. Let's see if it looks close. Look at that. No idea. It's doing a dry run here. No, it needs to be pushed out. Yeah, they don't match. She's going to have fun printing this, you know, because the left and right ones need a different registration mark. She's going to have fun printing this. Okay, let's try this. Let's try it again. Okay, we've got some transfer. I don't know if you can see it from the distance you are. I printed the black just now wet and printed it back on top of this on a new block. And the lines have transferred. So I can see on here, actually now, the place where I need to cut this one. I can see it's been transferred. Just double check before I... This one just needs a tiny touch here. Right there. That one's easy to see. This one's a bit more difficult to see. Okay, there we go. Chat, no idea what's going on over here. Sort of ignore you guys. What are you talking about? No idea. Okay, let's zoom in. Let's zoom in a bit now then so we can see what's going on. If I can hold the focus, let's get closer here. Yeah, look at this. We can do this. Okay, see what's happening then. These two were broken in different ways. This one, a whole lot had been missing. Again, I didn't know how much, so I put in just an area that I knew was larger. I dug a channel, stuck a piece of wood in, and now I've transferred the information. This one's not quite as much necessary on the top. So I can now see what I need to keep. I think I'm going to switch to my scope here. Let's get the focus better. Hang on. Yeah, I can see it much more clearly here. I'm still going to stay a little bit wide. I don't want to go exactly to the line because I'm still not sure exactly where the line is. So I'm going to cut this a tiny bit wide, and then when Aimi-san is printing this next week, you trim it back down, just that last little hair's breadth. Okay. Then over this one. This one needed a bigger plug, so it's come up much higher. And again, carving this a bit wider than it needs to be. So it's going to show a sliver of color outside the boundary. And we'll trim it back to the absolute perfect line at test printing time. I've learned that too many times. You try and hit it right on at this point, and inevitably it might be a tiny bit too shy. So leaving it just a fraction proud at this point. It's always possible to trim a bit more, but it's never cool when you've cut too much off. So this is too high for sure. This is too high. Okay. She said there's going to be more up here, the umbrella area here. She said is way too, I don't know. Look at this, it's cut on the edge here. When we saw this block set, you know, we looked at it and looked at it, and there's the number one decision is how bad is it? Is it so bad that you just forget it and throw it away? This one seemed quite printable, especially the key block. It seemed really, really quite printable. But then when you start digging and digging and digging, how much effort do you spend digging before it's just not worth it? But this one looks usable. Maybe I'll spend a few hours on this kind of repair work, and she'll spend a bunch of extra hours doing the preparation, getting the registration marks fixed. But then once that's done, you know, we can make a bunch of prints from this. And so far in our shop, we've got 2 of these small postcard prints from the Doi company, and they're among the most popular items we've got. We spent tons of time fixing the blocks. I spent days on that. I rebuilt the registration marks and routed the old ones out, put new ones in. Can't see anything what that's supposed to be. Okay, so much for that. Let's get back to our green block then for the rest of today's stream. I think the mic is clipped to the light bulb. Oh, I see. No, the mic just fell down. Sorry about that. Just a minute here. The mic was swinging in the air, tapping against the metal stand. I'm sorry. The mic is now stable again. Sorry about that. Would I reconsider carving a color block? We've done that. We've done that. In the Doi Hanga's block set we've got. The one was, what was it called? Aki no Miyajima. It's the Mitsugiri band. The tall, thin one. The sky block was split, and I carved a whole new sky block. So the edition we've got of that Aki no Miyajima print, it's the 5 of the blocks were carved by Harada-san. 1 of the blocks was carved by Dave. We've mixed them together, and the print went out into the shop. And the cool part about that was that, you know, the bench I've got here, this came from Harada-san's son, the same carver who worked on many of these Doi blocks. So that's something interesting too. I'm fixing this block, and I'm working on the same carving bench that the original was carved on back, you know, before I was born. Wow! My head explodes. So yeah, we would carve a new color block. If it turns out that we're really close with this print, and for example, that green block just doesn't make it, then yeah, maybe I'll cut a new color block and we'll fit it in. Remember, we're not talking about official editions and edition numbers and how expensive and valuable this stuff is, and nothing like that. This is the printing business, and we're just trying to make nice, beautiful prints. And whatever tools and methodologies and techniques we use, that's cool. You know, there's no official what's allowed and what isn't allowed is not a factor here at all. You know, I'm chopping up this old block from 1930s. The Doi Hanga Company is happy to have us help get these things back into usable condition. Without us, this is just unusable garbage. She's so happy that we're here to do this, you know. Not to mention the fact that she gets royalties now from it, you know. The blocks just sit in her garage, it's nothing. But we print them, we pay her. And her grandfather's legacy lives on. There's a real interesting aspect to it too. I shouldn't blab too much about this online, but the lady who owns all these blocks, you know, she and her husband, they have no kids. They have no kids. Okay, let's get back to that green block. Look at this. Lots still to do here. Okay, where am I? What's the time? It's 9 o'clock. We're okay for a while yet. Okay, well, I'll spend the last 20 minutes or so working on this block here, the green block. You can see where we are. Just these vague blobs have to be sharpened up. Just what I was doing half an hour ago. That'll be the last section of this stream. And then, as I guess lots of you know, tomorrow's stream is different. Tomorrow's stream, we're going to try that, you know, I can't say it's an experiment. I don't know what to say. Tomorrow's stream is going to be the live start to finish making of a print, the young girl. I've still got a couple of decisions to make on this, you know. Excuse me. I have to decide really actually what size to make this thing at. I'm torn between going 2 different directions when I do this tomorrow. I know I've printed it out here now at the actual size of the original. It was published in 1906. It wasn't a woodblock print. The copy we've all been looking at on the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. Do I need to link to this? It might be focused. I'm going to chat about this for a minute here. Let me find the links, just a sec. Or somebody can beat me to it, whatever. I think I might have it pretty quickly here. Who's fastest? Can I beat you? Here we are. Here's the link to the picture on the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. Now what you're seeing there is not a wood block print. It's an offset, they call it litho, whatever, lithograph, offset lithography. It's a litho on fairly dense paper. And they were sold in series by a company that made them for use as postcards. And they were half art, half something for using commercial. The copy in the museum has actually been used. There was a stamp stuck on it and it was mailed to somebody. But it's a postcard size. So I think I'm going to do it at the original size for two reasons. One is, well, two or three reasons. One is that was the original. Let's just keep it there. It balances well at that size. This image might also, if you imagine it being stretched up and put on a wall, it might work, I guess. But I think it's small and intimate. It fits at that size. The second reason I want to do that is because once it's finished, we're going to put this in the shop as an item for sale. He died in, I think, 1910, the guy who designed it. So there's no copyright on this. It's a public domain image now. So we'll be putting it in the shop for sale. And to do that, we need to fit it within one of our standard dimensions here. And we've got the Hunger Club series, which are 15. They have a maximum height of 15 centimeters and a maximum width of 11 centimeters. And this goes to 15 by 9.5, so it'll fit in there. And the third reason is, and this is a bit selfish, the larger and larger and larger it is, the more time it takes to make it, then I'm going to have a certain time limit on Monday. So fitting it in. And it's going to be 2 blocks. The one block for, of course, the background tones and part under her head and hair. And the second block catches the signature and her black hair. And there's an interesting conundrum here, what to do. We were chatting about this on the Acolyte fan page. Let me get a piece of wood here. We can see this here. Here's the key block that we were just looking at. The wood grain on this block runs this way. And always, and it's almost a never broken rule, that whenever we're printing on our bench, the block goes down with the long dimension horizontal. Now it could be, for example, like this. It could be that the print is actually going to be looked at when it's finished in the vertical dimension, but we would always print it in the long horizontal dimension. That's the way our arm strokes, that's the way our baron moves. For us to push up and down makes no sense. And the block itself, the wood grain, you can see it here, the wood grain runs in the long dimension. And when we take the piece of paper and put it down to print, the paper also has a grain and it runs in the long dimension. And maybe you're thinking paper has no grain, but it absolutely does. And handmade Japanese paper, rocked and rocked and rocked and rocked, has a grain. So we always cut our paper so that the grain of the paper runs in the long dimension. And it's then printed on a block where the grain is running in the long dimension. And the reason this is important is normal wood blocks, not the modern plywood type we use now, when they get wet, they expand. And they never expand up and down the length of the tree. They always expand across the grain. And the paper does the same thing. When we make a piece of paper moist, if we had thought about a piece of paper as being whatever, it was 100 by 100, whatever it is, dry. When you moisten it, the grain of the paper is this way. Right? When you moisten it, it's still 100 that way, but it will go to 102 or 103 or 104, depending on the paper, this way. So we keep the wood grain and the paper grain absolutely in the same direction. So the problem for me on this print is the classical technique means the wood grain runs this way, the paper grain runs this way. But this is a woman sitting in water. And when I come to print it, if some of that wood grain shows, we're going to get those lines looking vertically in the water, which would be visually disturbing. So there is an idea to cut it on the block the other way around, so that if I print poorly and wood grain shows, it looks horizontal and it wouldn't hurt the image. Anyway, for me, the decision's made. I'm going to do it, of course. I'm going to do it the classical way, up and down on the wood. And how well I can print it is going to determine what happens. If I print it carelessly, or if I choose a piece of wood that has strong grain, we'll have disturbing lines in it. We'll see. That's my job, to try and print it smoothly. And for wood, what I've got, where is it? Hang on a sec. I don't know if I can reach it from where I sit. Yeah, I think I can reach it without knocking the computer off the table. Hang on a sec. Got it. We'll be talking about some of these things tomorrow, but I don't know how much I can explain tomorrow and keep the stream running and get the job done. What you're looking at here is a piece of wood with some registration marks carved in funny places. Look at this. There's an angled registration mark here and a little funny angled registration mark here. These are junk blocks that we got from a Yahoo auction, a pile of jumbled random blocks that had been used years ago. This is, I think, post-war, maybe 1960 or whatever. And these blocks would have been used. The paper would have been cut in a curve and it would have gone in these registration marks. And these were probably used for printing fans. They probably came from Kyoto. And in fact, the pigment is full of white Gofun powder. So it's almost certainly from Kyoto. But the back is unused and clean and clear and 50, 60 years well seasoned. So I'm going to use the back of this block for our little young girl. There's empty spaces there. I'll be pasting the Hanshida down for the background here, and on the other side of the wood I'll be using for her black hair. So we're going to work on a piece of wood that's probably about as old as I am. It seems okay, I think. It's got a nice little bit of a crunch. Yeah. It's got a crunch sound to it. It seems solid. It's not too old to be dried out and brittle. And it's going to come back to life tomorrow morning. In the meantime, I got work to do. I should be working instead of talking too much. Yeah, that's a factor. I know somebody's asking about this block here. Why don't I just shave it off? And we could. I know there's a problem with that. I know it could be planed off, and then I've got two neat, clean sides. The downside to that is that it's then going to get pretty thin. And this is very old and very dry. And once we start printing on this, you put water-based pigment. Once I've finished my carving tomorrow, I'll be putting water-based pigment on and printing. If I were printing on a fairly large area in this, it takes the water, and it drinks. It's 50, 60 years thirsty. It hasn't been drinking for all that time. And it will expand like crazy, the top. So the block would just simply warp up and down. So I don't think I would trust this. That's the huge advantage of the plywood blocks we use these days. It really, really, really minimizes warping. I tried to get Shimano-san to start doing that back in the 1990s, but he looked at me like I was crazy. He wouldn't do it. And that didn't come along till Matsumura-san started making them that way. Okay, anyway, let's get busy here. What have I got? Try and finish this last corner before we run out of time here. Are we on stream? On focus? Let's zoom in a bit. We get questions about the flask. I know the flask here, just in front of me. It's something that came along in the Meiji time. It wasn't part of the old Edo era carving. And if I do this, if I just put a line on here, this piece of paper here, we're carving here. I think you see this. I think you can probably. If we didn't have a flask, I'm going to move it out of the way here. if I didn't have the flask, and I've just got the raw light, I'm trying to carve this line, and can you see what's happening? Look at that knife. There's a strong, strong shadow to the knife, and it's really difficult to see where the line is. It didn't matter in the old days because they didn't have strong, bright electric lights. They were working in front of a window or something like that, and they had to quit like 4 or 5 o'clock in the winter when it got to the end of the day because that was it. There was no more light. But they had a window or something with natural light streaming in. They wouldn't work in a south window where the bright sunshine streams in, so they weren't dealing with shadows. Along comes the Meiji time, you get your first electric lights or gas lights or whatever, and they have strong shadows. So somewhere along the line, somebody came up with the idea of putting the flask inside, and what it does is, depending on the angle of your knife and where you are, look at this. The knife shadow now is all broken up into a really soft blend, and you can see clearly where the line is. And this idea was nothing to do with me. It goes back, over 100 years into Meiji time. And these flasks were not really known in Japan, so the supposition is that this came from the West. But who knows? Nobody knows. But we use it now because it works just so nicely. It gives a soft light over the whole area of the block that we're carving. John-san, the young boy working for us, he's carving a meteoric power print right now. He doesn't use this. What he does is he's got a fluorescent light, but he uses a strip light across the front of the bench. So it shines light from a bunch of different directions and he doesn't get a strong shadow. But I really, really, really do not like working with a fluorescent light. He's done a good job on that meteoric power print. He did the one, I don't know, what does Jed call it? I can't remember these names. The first print in the boss fight series, it's printing now. Suga-san's printing it upstairs. It'll be ready in a couple of weeks. John-san carved that one, and my God, he did a good job. It's so nice now. We've got 4 people working here now as competent carvers. Me, Kawasaki-san's been with us for a couple of years now. She's doing all the subscription prints. Chon-san's working on the boss fights. And young Yumi-san, Nagao Yumi-san, she's a protege from Asuka-sensei. My friend Asuka Motoharu, and she's doing a very nice job. She just did the Dragon's Gift print, which has now started printing. Kubota-san's working on that over the next couple of weeks. Look at this, I can't even see where it is. Not a clue, we're just going to get some more green blobs. Again, speaking about tomorrow's stream, tomorrow's long stream, making a full print, and Cameron will be here right from the beginning from 8 o'clock. As I mentioned, don't panic about the Wi-Fi because we're using a wired connection. And we're going to try the camera setup a little bit differently. Usually when Cameron's here, he takes the laptop, so you're looking at Cameron in the top left-hand corner here, and you're seeing me in the carving. We're going to do it, I think, a little bit differently. I'm going to keep the laptop here. He's going to use his own computer while he's here. And he'll run the chat from his own computer. So I'll have my computer here with this visible, but I won't be able to see the chat because he'll have it on his computer. But it doesn't matter, because I won't be sitting here reading it myself. He'll be reading it and throwing questions at me, and I'll just concentrate on the work. So you won't see him. He'll be running the chat from a keyboard, but he won't be on camera. The camera will stay pretty much like it is today. And then what I'll try and do, in fact I should maybe just test it right now, if there's something that I want to show during the stream, this window's too small, so I should be able to switch to a different window like this, where you can see what I'm doing. So I'll switch back and forth to this window, then when I get going back to the carving like this. So that's the plan for tomorrow. I'll keep the cameras both on me, and Cameron will be running the talk part of it, the chat part of it, from his own computer. So you won't see him. He'll just be audible in the background. You'll hear his voice and you'll see his typing. I think, anyway, that's the current plan for what I think we're going to do tomorrow. Somebody just dropped in. Yes, we're fixing blocks. This is an old block we're fixing here today. A block, I think, from somewhere in the 1930s. I don't have an exact date on it. Somebody in the stream yesterday looked it up and found that this print seems to have been first published in the 1930s. This is the print called Arashiyama by Tsuchiya Koitsu, published by the Doi Hanga Company. And if this all goes well and the test printing goes well, in a few weeks from now this print will be back again on sale. It'll be in our shop. We're not going to sell it in the double format, of course. We're going to print them, cut them apart. My own camera, am I wandering again? Somebody's asking me how we get our hands on these old blocks. We're working with the owner. The lady who owns these blocks is the granddaughter of the man who ran the publishing company, the Doi Hanga Company, the Doi print publishing company. Ran in the pre-war period. I don't know what, 1920 something they started. I don't know the details. They ran in the pre-war period. His son took over after the war. Wasn't all that successful. They kept printing some of the older blocks, didn't publish much new stuff. And the lady who has it now, she's a little bit older than me. She's the granddaughter of the original founder. And she has a garage full of the old blocks. And it's been a couple of years now. We've been using them, the very few of them, for our own needs. We've been doing it two ways. We've been taking blocks out of the garage, printing them ourselves here, and paying her a block royalty. We've also been finding in her storage room finished prints that they printed in the 70s and 80s. And we've put those in our shop, and we just pay her whatever. We buy them from her at a wholesale rate and put them in the shop. But mostly what we want to do with her is print the old blocks, and we do it on a royalty basis. We fix the blocks up, get the prints in the shop. And at that point there's nothing paid to her, but once the prints sell, so we pay her a royalty based on sales. She's very happy. The blocks are being used again. Her grandfather's name is being remembered. Some nice prints are coming into the world. So it's a win-win for everybody. What she's really happy about is that we're printing these things in a nicer, better, cleaner, more beautiful way than all the post-war printers have been doing, because they didn't give a, they couldn't care less about what this stuff looked like, you know. We're going back to the earliest editions where we can find them and trying to make prints that honor, that look good, that look beautiful. But still, I can't quite get used to this idea, you know, carving this piece of wood here that's older than I am. Way, way older than I am, you know. And we were doing this a while ago, and when we started doing this, somebody said, Dave, don't touch that. This is living treasure. I mean, this is national treasure stuff. You can't destroy these old blocks, you know. And well, no, it's not. There's no value in these things whatsoever, you know, not at all. If we hadn't come along, and if this lady had just sort of got a bit older and passed away, the garbage men would have been called in to clean up that garage, and out they would have gone to the dump, you know. They have no value to anybody else at all. But actually for her, you know, the fact that we are here doing this, it's a huge relief for her, because she no longer has to worry about what's going to happen. You know, none of this has been decided yet. I shouldn't talk about it too much, but as I said, she's got no children. But instead of sending these to the dump, I can think of a much better place to take care of them, you know. And then, of course, next step down the road, my daughters have the problem. You know, when Dave gets older, now what do you do with them? You know? Hopefully our business here can grow to the point where it's got a chance to survive past me, I guess. We'll see. That's not the current situation, you know. This is not a company, it's a proprietorship. This is all my personal affair. You know, if something happened to me, if I had a stroke this afternoon, we're done. The company just gets dissolved and stuff gets thrown away and my daughters have to clean up, and that's the end of it. So yeah, we'd like to get this a bit more stable. Am I still on camera? I keep wandering, you know. Not sure about tomorrow. Some part of it might be under the microscope, part of it might be freehand like this. I'm not sure. I'd like to really get good taste on those lines in the water, so I'd like to get it close to the original. So I'll probably do that part of it under the scope, I think. We'll see. Play it by ear tomorrow. Crunch, crunch, 90-year-old wood crunching. One corner left. We're good for time, I think. What is it? Oh, no. Gonna run out of time here. Anyway. Oh, question. Everything's running out here, guys. Two questions. Yeah, the microphone interference, this question, I think that might have been because I dropped the microphone. When I reached for that block, the microphone fell onto the table. Now, at the moment I'm speaking now, the mic is actually held up back on its clip. So I hope this is what you were talking about. If there's other mic interference, I'm not quite sure. Oh, look at this. Okay, there's a question about, I don't know how to do this, so maybe I should just answer privately. Somebody's got hello. Somebody's bought a knife from here in Japan. They tried to use it and broke it. And clearly put, the angle that knife is sharpened. I'm sorry, this is a question that's on the question box there. Somebody's showing me an image of a knife. It's not a traditional type handle, but the knife blade, is this visible? No. The knife blade is sharpened something like this. Now my knife right now, at the moment, is sharpened something like this. And she says the knife, she tried to carve and it broke right away, bang. Well, absolutely, something sharpened. That's like a needle sharp. There's no way I would ever try using a knife like that. Cut the angle back. And I've sharpened it on your stone and cut the angle back to something like this. And you've got a hope of preserving that tip. The picture you just showed me, it's way too pointy. And absolutely, me too. If I had tried using that, it would have just broken straight away. So I don't know what you bought there or what the specific meaning for that knife is. The handle is a different shape too. It doesn't look like a normal Japanese carving knife. But anyway, it's too pointy. Forget it. Just get on a stone, cut it back to an angle. I don't know what the number is, but an angle something like this. If you go too much like this, of course, it's way too fat. You can't go around corners at all. So you've got to find something in between. Okay, I've got to get into the shop. It's 9:20. It's me and Kawai-san here. We're together today. There's, I don't even know, 25, 30 people booked for print parties. I'd hope to get this finished today. It'll have to be done tonight. Which glasses? So yeah, we'll get a color off. Okay, next time I see you will be 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. It'll be our special stream. I hope there's no disasters. I'm going to try and keep backups. I'm going to get a backup of the Hanshita. I'm going to get a backup of my knife blade ready for sharpening. I'm going to try and keep it so that we can work through this thing. Something to emphasize, please don't think of tomorrow's stream as being, oh my God, can he do this? Is he going to make it? Let's go for a Guinness Book of World Records. That's not what's happening. Just simply, you've seen a bit of carving, you've seen a bit of printing, you've seen a bunch of different stuff on these streams. Simply, I'm going to put a bit of it all together in one stream. We'll start, I'll prepare the Hanshita, I'll paste it down on the wood. We'll start carving. It should be okay to get around the end of it. Do it for 2 blocks. I'll have paper moistened and prepared. And peacefully and slowly, we should be able to see that simple print come to life tomorrow. So it should be fun, but please don't make a giant big deal about this. Oh my God, Dave is going to challenge this thing. That's not the approach we're trying to take. All right, see you tomorrow, I hope, 8 o'clock. Thanks very much. I'll catch you then. Thanks for watching, guys. Look at that block. Bye for now.